Elon Musk became the biggest shareholder of Twitter and triggered the Twitter stock to spike by 25% today.
A former Silicon Valley engineer died in Shanghai amid CCP's Zero COVID campaign in an unbelievable consequence of events.
How Zuckerberg fund flooded the states and impacted the 2020 election results. Hello everyone, welcome to Wei and Kathy Show. I'm your host Wei Fang.
I'm Kathy Zhang.
Okay, so today we'll be continue reporting to you about the Mark Zuckerberg's fund, how that impacted in the 2020 election result, and that's the continuing of the previous report, Kathy, right?
Yeah, it's related, but there are actually more details that you may or may not know about.
Yep. So it is a must-watch, and however, we have to do that on the Safe Chat, just to prepare for that. In the later part of the show, we're going to move over there for the reason that you know. So yeah, so you just need to know that what Kathy has unearthed for you, and those are the fact and truth that we are entitled to know. So before we continue with today's program, please click like and making sure you are still subscribed, and also the little bell, click on that. All right, let's move on into today's news. The first one is probably the piece of news that all of you already know. And so basically, Elon Musk posted a Twitter, if you remember, last month, he posted a Twitter poll in March questioning whether Twitter allows users to speak freely. If you still remember, the following is what he wrote. Free speech is essential to a functioning democracy. Do you believe Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle? Okay, so there's a lot of response. Of course, he got 80 million followers, all right? The survey result is 30% say yes, 70% say no. So it's a strong no, basically, yeah.
And at that time, I think some people already figured, Elon Musk probably will do something with that, right?
So he was asking that, again, he tweeted, what should be done given the situation? Twitter is not doing his job, what should be done? So there's a lot of response, of course, right? And then including Christina Pusha, and she's the press secretary of Florida Governor DeSantis. And she said, buy this one, all right? Now, another conservative radio host, Buck Sexton, he said, yes, buy Twitter or just build one. Oh, please build one. Save the country from those, Silicon Valley libs. Anyway, so Elon Musk wrote in another tweet saying that he is giving serious thought to creating a new social media platform. 1 week later, all right, the news broke today, he bought more than 73 million shares of the Twitters, and valued at $2.9 billion based on the last Friday's closing price. So he bought it, last Friday, all right? So that's nearly 10% stake in Twitter, all right? So he now become the biggest shareholder of Twitter. Then, the next one, the second one is Vanguard mutual fund, as you all know. And then they got 8.8%. And what about the founder, Jack Dorsey, who was, move off the position of the CEO, and Jack Dorsey owning 2.3%. So apparently, Elon Musk will be sitting on the board of the Twitter, and we'll see that.
How much can he do?
Yeah, what's the impact? Okay, the market respond. He definitely have an impact on the market. Okay, so the purchase caused the share of the Twitter to spike by 25% in the pre-market trade. All right, and comes shortly after. Yeah. So basically, that's what happened. In the meantime, the Tesla, the company also jumped by almost 6%. So this guy is just like his finger is golden touch, right? He touched something and just wow. Just turn nothing into gold. That's Elon Musk's influence. So what do you think? Do you like it? Do you think it's a good idea? You want to just leave your comment there? And how do you think about his move? And do you think by 9.8%, would that be enough to get him on the board and get him steer the ship to a new direction? Yeah, so share your thought here. Okay, so now let's move on to something that you may not know, but you will feel about it because the supply chain that we rely upon every day in our daily life, how do we buy goods, is facing another major disruption because Shanghai, the largest engine of the economy of China, 4% of the China entire economy is shutting down. Okay, it started at March 28th, and through now they said they're gonna do it through April 11th. Okay, at that time, they are determined to achieve this so-called zero COVID scenario. So what do? They shut down the entire city, 26 million people, folks. Everybody stay home, okay? And then in the meantime, while they stay home, they need to do this 全民核酸. Okay, it's like a nuclear acid test for every single person. So while you lock them up in their home, you also need to check everybody. So what do? You just summon them all out, and this has happened this morning. Okay, believe it or not, in one single day, they tested 26 million people in one day. Averagely, I did my survey with my Chinese program. There are people from Shanghai who answer my call, answer my survey, averagely 30 minutes. So you go out there, you line up with the people, it's just packed, okay, one after another for 30 minutes until you get your test. And guess what?
And in the cold weather, too.
In the cold weather, okay. In that time, that's the best time for the virus to spread. Right? You understand? Because everybody's there.
Yeah, and not only that, because actually we're going to share with you, related news after this one, is there is, according to a recorded conversation between a Shanghai citizen with the Shanghai CDC expert.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, basically the citizens complaining about the treatment of his parents, right? So one thing he revealed was that his mother was identified as after the testing, it's positive. So they actually moved his mother to another hospital, from the hotel to the hospital, but the hospital was not prepared and refused to take her and others. So her mother, didn't have any symptom, but was tested positive. She and the others with the same case just stand in the cold for over 2 hours before they were admitted into the hospital.
Before actually they broke in, right?
Yeah.
Young people broke in and forced their way into the hospital.
Yeah, so that's how it is going on right now.
It's chaos over there. Then they took like several hundreds of baby who tested positive. Baby, how young was the baby? From like a few months to 2-year-old. They took several hundred babies away from their mom. Okay, how can the mom let them go? Because this is the government. They couldn't do anything. They took away the baby. Then they did not take care of them. The baby, some of the babies stayed there for several days. It's completely messed. The baby got so dismayed, and and some of them got sick, other sickness. So and then the mother was just pouring out on the internet, on the social media, saying that how much suffering they're going through. Some of them got to see the video of their baby by the nurse. Very limited number of nurses taking care of vast number of babies with no mom, and then they got so disheartened, when they see how miserable their babies are. So this is one thing that created big outrage in Shanghai, and so next one we're gonna talk to you about one particular cases what happened. The reason why I want to tell the story of this lady. Her name is Li Chang, is because I really want to show you that in the socialist nation, how things, what a common citizen could encounter, okay? And then after that, Kathy will tell you, what's the truth beneath all this suffering, okay? Okay, this Li Chang, she's just like a Wei, and like a Kathy, okay? And she was born in 1973. She's a Beijingese, grew in Beijing, and she went to Tsinghua University. If you know the university system in Tsinghua, that's one of the top universities, just like, China's Harvard. All right, so entered the computer science. Then after that, came to the U.S. for graduate study, just like Wei and Kathy. Okay, he got her degree, either PhD or a master. He went to Silicon Valley and worked as a high-tech engineer, just like Wei and Kathy. She got 2 babies, 2 children. So they start some company here, and then they got very successful. They got the money, they got experience, they got the technology. In 2018, okay, the husband decided to go back to China and start his new venture in Shanghai. So the wife, Li Chang, followed her husband and brought the kids back to China and they lived there. Last year, this Li Chang, okay, she's basically in her like a 47-year-old, right? 48, and she unfortunately she got this cerebral hemorrhage, okay. So she lost her capability to move, to move around, but consciously she's still very clear. So the husband then sent the kids to Beijing and in the home of the in-law, and the husband just stay in Shanghai and take care of the wife. Okay, so he basically just work at daytime, and at night it's come to this this recovery care center. It's a very high-end recovery care center. So the wife, the Li Chang, was very well attended. All right, and at night plus, and her husband was always there. Now it came this this pandemic recently, okay, not 2 years ago, just recently, this COVID, this Omicron pandemic come along, and then one person was tested positive in that high-end recovery care center. Then everybody has to leave the care center, have the leaders leave the center, and have to be quarantined, has to be quarantined. Both the family, the patients, the families, and the caring staff, okay? So including, then the husband said, how about I just get quarantined with my wife so that I can take care of my wife? They said, no, everybody needs to be separately quarantined. So the husband got so anxious, worried, okay, and also angry. And finally he just, he just called for all the other, family members who were there, and then taking care of their relative or beloved ones. And then they just occupied, just locked them inside the caring center, refused to leave. What happened? Police came here and raided that room, and then arrest them all, including her husband. Remember, the husband and the wife, pretty much they are U.S. citizen. Okay, they came here as a graduate student, become a successful entrepreneur, got the U.S. citizen. I'm not for sure, okay? Chances are 99% they are U.S. citizen. So went over there, very successful, white-collar, high-tech entrepreneurs. And this husband got arrested in the name of sabotage. Sabotage, 抗议, how to say that? Sabotage the government's anti-pandemic movement, all right? So, and then the care center said, don't worry, we're going to take care of your wife. So how did they do it? They leave one nurse taking care of more than 10 patients. So Li Chang, while she was lying there, right, she always had this phlegm, okay, in her throat. So what do? So with the aspirator, you can suck the phlegm away so that she can continue breathing. So this nurse who were left, just stayed, has to take care of so many patients, and he or she doesn't know how to use the aspirator. So this Li Chang lying there, and with the phlegm accumulated, and she's literally over a long period of time suffocated to death. All right. So afterwards, the husband just got a notice saying your wife is dead. She has been cremated. There's no body left for you. Here's a notice for you to know. This is the story.
Wow.
Just die like that. Because one person tested positive. Remember, Omicron, as we all know, Omicron is just like a flu type of pandemic, right? It will just give you headache, give you running nose for 3 days or 2 weeks, depends, and you recover. Just for that, they went as far as just lock down the entire nation, and this is only one story. There's people who got this acute disease, cannot even get into ICU because all the medical resources are dedicated to this to reach the zero case zero COVID result that the CCP insisted to have. So many people died, and some depressed people, they hung themselves or jumped from the floor. There's several recording of that, video recording, unbelievable, because they were locked there. Some of them, they don't have food because the lockdown order was given just over a period of 12 hours. Mm-hmm. They don't even have time to buy enough food to store, to feed themselves. People stay hungry. The entire nation, the modernized 21st century Shanghai, the leading economic, the most prosperous city in China, they live under through this, just because of an order from the government. So, yeah.
So next I want to share with you. So people may wonder, the order from the political party. So how does those professional people in the medical field deal with that, right? So do they also don't really know about this disease, this virus, or the otherwise? So actually there was a very interesting recording of a conversation widespread on the internet right now. It's from Shanghai, the city of Shanghai that we just shared. And it's really telling how this zero COVID policy is totally a political event rather than very professional medical policy. So in this recording, Shanghai citizen, he was so frustrated. The whole conversation was like about 24 minutes. All right. So why he was so frustrated? Because he said his father got the twice testing at the end of March, during the end of March. Okay, and both times it was said it's negative, and the result was shown on this app called the Health Cloud. And this Health Cloud is supposed to be a very professional health app, provide people with a one-stop health service. And it was claimed as the leading mobile internet healthcare service platform in China. So then, next day, he got a phone call from a Shanghai CDC person and saying that your father is positive and he has to be transported to a hospital. Okay, those hospital with a lot of beds you probably see on the internet. So he was just so confused and so frustrated. He said, on this health cloud, my father was negative, but then CDC called me saying he's positive. Who should I believe, right? So then the expert just from the CDC, tried to explain to him, and he was like, he's not satisfied. So they called in the leader, probably the manager in CDC of Shanghai. So eventually, the manager was also very frustrated. He said, I tell you the truth. Now Shanghai hospital beds are very, very tight, and there's there's no room. And actually, they felt helpless because she said she had had recently received hundreds of such complaint calls day and night, and they cannot resolve those problems. They said we only do researches and we only notify people when they are tested positive. So. Then the citizen was just so frustrated, said now even Weibo, the most popular Chinese social media, is closed for comments.
And they are Twitter, the Twitter in China.
Yeah. And then he said, I have no place to complain anymore. So, and the CDC manager said it is completely knocked over. All the images of Shanghai had previously established as a anti-pandemic model, right? And she said, as a professional, I have long proposed that with light asymptomatic patients, you should not transfer people away, just have them isolated at home. And she said, I've mentioned N times, like X times, right? And she said the proposal was just not being ignored from her. So, and she said nobody is listening to the experts like us. And then she said, let's just listen to a little bit. It's in Chinese, but she really expressed her despair. It's C3.
要被逼疯了，知道吧？专业人员说的话根本就没人听。
是的，是的。
现在全部把这个病变成了政治性的一个疾病。
对，
花了这么多的人财物在做一个
对人力、物力、财力，就全部都在往后退啊。
对呀，就在做一个类似流感的。你说你看到哪个国家防流感这么防吗？现在？
So what she's saying is that we, the professionals, are so exhausted and are driven just crazy. Now the pandemic has become a political disease. That's what she literally said, political disease, and consuming so much, human resources, so much materials and the financial resources to solve this flu-like disease. And she said, do you see any other countries is, preventing this pandemic like this way? She actually encouraged the citizen to publicize their recording because she said,
Wow.
Yeah, she said, we are all common citizens. And then the citizen just said, the gentleman just said, we eventually, the people are suffering after all, because they treated this as a political disease.
Yeah. So by publishing that recording, this caller, okay, this citizen caller and this medical professional, they both could go to jail.
Yeah, actually, after this recording was publicized on the internet, the CDC just published a notification, okay, saying that we can show that, but it's in Chinese, saying that when CDC get phone calls, or not only CDC, right? Yeah, the other medical centers, when you receive phone calls, when you answer people's phone calls, you have to be consistent with our policy. Cannot add any personal, individual, subjective opinion. Okay? And they also hold, they published that on the April 2nd. And also they held like large-scale meetings and to saying that it's like the order of this zero pandemic is like the order from military. Okay, and if you are told to do something, you just have to do it. Okay, if you don't do it, if you do it well, then you lose your job. That's what in the meetings was said.
Yeah. So maybe I think we explained to you that why so? Okay. In last show, let me just quickly repeat that in case that you missed the last program. Why they are doing this way? Okay, because in the last 2 years, CCP claimed they got a successful model. They told the people in China, and they told mainly Chinese diaspora, right? Diaspora around the world, saying that we have a better model. China is so safe, China is so peaceful, and China is so, effective. Chinese government, is so effective. Look at those America, those Europe. So many people died. And then it showed that our system is better. The socialist system is better than they. All right, so how did they do it? First, two things, right? They locked down everything. Nobody moved. They starve the virus to death. That's their approach. And the second, they just hide the number. With these two ways, they claim they got the success of the controlling the virus, the pandemic in the last 2 years. Now it came to the Omicron. The Omicron is several 10 times as infectious than the previous version. Okay, this first thing. The second, the harm is much, much lighter. It's just like a flu.
Yeah, actually, the people in the Shanghai CDC, she knows.
Yeah, they all know.
She said that it's just like a flu. Okay, if it's a light symptom or a symptom, you just treat it like flu.
Okay, so if that's the case, if they know that, I'm sure they know that. Why don't they just let it, go through? Everybody just got sick a few days, and just grow their immunization system. And then this is the issue's over. No, because remember, it has been 2 years, during which they claim that our way is better. So our way has to continue to be better. So the Omicron came, they still say, because our way is the zero COVID policy. Now we need to prove that still works.
Yeah, because this already, as I shared with you last time, they have this article in Shenzhen newspaper, right? So it said it's not just on the surface, it's a choice of how you treat virus and how you deal with pandemic, but deep inside is a choice of...
It's a battle.
It's a battle of a system,
Yeah.
political system.
And even battle of civilizations.
Yeah.
Of course, that's the wrong way to say that. But what they mean is that civilization means socialism versus capitalism. So because of that, they do this. They force the entire city, 26 million people. Altogether, it's probably 80 million people, okay, in several cities through this. Okay, they just artificially create a non-existence crisis. And then their approach, of course, as I said, is to starve death the virus. And then they starve death so many people, so many normal people. And then they like the Li Chang that I just talked to you about. So many people died not because of the virus, because of the policy of the virus. This is what happened. And then, along with that, the other rippling effect is the Shanghai stopped working, the poor stopped shipping things out. And then we're going to have another hike of inflation that will impact on our daily life. And also because of the CCP needs to prove to its 1.4 billion people, we are right. See, we are right. So
also prove to the world.
Yeah, we are right. So we're entitled to keep ruling you. That's basically, that's the absurdity of communism. It has been like that, for over 100 years.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's always the way they deal with every crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ultimate goal or the purpose of everything is to prove that CCP, Chinese Communist Party, is the ruling party, to make sure it is the ruling party in China.
So whatever we experience here is only a very light version, as you see, right? If you just listen to what we just told you in Shanghai, this is very vivid, just happening right now. And then what do we got in this country? It's only a lighter version. But we need to be vigilant. We don't go there, right? People in the Chinese show, so many people wrote that I live in US. We never went through like this. My baby was taken away from the mom's arm, and the mom cannot do anything, cannot even complain. They said the American want to draw their gun and start shooting and things like that. So so that's the difference. Yeah. Anyway, so we have to move on, right, to the next topic, and we'll have to do that in the safe chat. So please,
what I'm gonna share with you while you transferring to safe chat, if you have not been on there before, I'm gonna share with you the research that. By a nonprofit organization in Washington D.C. and that organization is actually the first one to really expose this problem that we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have to have the freedom to talk, and so we have to move over there. So please follow us over there. It's something really worth knowing about. Again, before you go, please click like if you have not done so, and making sure you stay subscribed and the little bell was on. All right, let's go. 1,